Yeah, okay. All righty, let's go. First up is Bengt O Björklund, a poet, artist, journalist, photographer, writer, and musician, and editor. In 1968, he landed in jail in Istanbul for $20 worth of hash and met a bunch of international artists, poets, and musicians. It was then he embarked on his artistic voyage in many directions, as well as learning to cook, do yoga, and generally get a life. The character Erich in the movie Midnight Express is based on Bengt. He's published 10 books of poetry, 5 in English, 5 in Swedish. Recently, or some time ago, he was awarded Sweden Beat Poet Laurette by the National Beat Poetry Foundation, which is a lifetime honor. Thank you very much and welcome, Bengt.
Thank you, Belinda. Beat Poet Laurette, that was in 2019. Okay, I'm going to read. It's really dark and gloomy days for us here in Europe, especially for us in Sweden, very close to the war. And I'm going to read some poems from 2017, and I realized a lot of my poetry is about war of some strange reason. But this is the first one then. It's a pretty short one. Who will not run from blind men performing surgery without consent in theaters of quenched mercy? Who will not flee markets where blind hate madly ignites a dark dog prophecy? There are men dying to kill you, exposing children to pointless murder. There are transparent women kept like holy men's trophies on broken mantelpieces. There's more to ember than loss. Stern does not play ball at midnight. Firm goes religious at any time. Hand in hand they dare, the only end that burst out like a ring of fire knocking on every door.
Thank you. Gabor.
Me, okay.
Yeah, Hungarian-American poet, jazz poet, translator, author of 11 books of poetry in 5 languages, 1 book of prose, and 19 books of translations. His latest works of translations are 2 brand new contemporary Hungarian poetry anthologies in English. One is with 8 women and 8 men poets, titled They'll Be Good for Seed, published by White Pine Press in the fall of 2021. And okay, he was honored with the Hungarian Beat Poet Laureate Lifetime Award in September 2020 by the National Beat Poetry Foundation based in Connecticut. At present, he's living in Hungary, but travels to any place where people are interested in his and Hungarian poetry. Welcome.
How are you?
Hi.
Yeah, we're. I usually don't write political poems and nothing on war, so sorry about that. But the people from Ukraine are coming in, thousands of thousands every day to Hungary. Tomorrow I'm going to Budapest. I'm going to meet some. Because I'm in the south side, which is not very far, 2.5 hours from Ukraine. This is a poem called Recognition of Ennui. The wind is lost in my hair and fell into my shadow on the other side of earth in this invisible cold. Questions lurk in my eyes, my organs slowly evaporating. Their absence leaves a gap in the water. My face shows no killing intent. Every wound heals on the trunks of unknown trees. The arches of the future disappear on their greenish branches. Naked darkness multiplies my shoulders. My chest is a bed of myro leaves. Frogs bathe in the pools of my footsteps. Their stories splash onto the shore's on the shore's sand. Every part of my body is a hired message. My features are a lost smile in clayey slush. Pine needles rain far from the sky. No one cries for the wound of another. I carry an avalanche on my fingertips. Earth grows wings on the sides of the mountains and flies up to the stars that burden her body with life. The stones with our names neither belong to nor are magnetized by any shadowy figures. The smoke of burning birch bark colors my skin, makes my eyes water, tests the orifices of my skeleton. Roots of clouds snake through my intestines. Our innocence is based on the forgotten dreams of the night. The roof of our silhouettes overshadowed our decisions. The tree branches penetrated millions of parchments. Our relationship might not be correlated to any behaviors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ren, yes, and also for Bengt. Ren Powell is a writer and teaching artist. She is a California-born Norwegian immigrant settled on the west coast of Norway. Ren has a PhD in creative writing from Lancaster University and has been a member of Norwegian's Authors Union since 2005. She has authored 6 full-length collections of poetry and more than 24 books of translations with traditional publishing houses. Her collections have been purchased by the Norwegian Arts Council for National Library distribution, and her poems have been translated and published in 8 languages. Ren is currently focusing on hand-bound poetry collections and mixed media experimental poetry forms. And you can find out more about her at renpowell.com. Welcome, Ren.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't pull out any war poems or anything like that.
That's fine.
We did pull the iodine tablets out of the shelf this morning, though. But I've picked poems about the body, all of them. So this first one is from Impermanence. I'm going to tell you a story, but you knew that. I lost a tooth, and that's the wretched whole of it. Surely you've had that dream. Not a baby tooth, but a last chance tooth. This is what you get tooth. Take good care this time round. Choking just a little on the trickle of blood down your throat, as all your bones let loose of the soft bits, and you come apart like bread in water.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pankuri Singhai, did I say that reasonably okay? Is a bilingual poet from India. She has 2 books of poems in English, 2 collections of stories in Hindi, 5 collections of poetry in Hindi to her credit. She has received awards from Albania, Romania, Nigeria, Tunisia, among other countries for her writings in English, and won the Special Jury Award in the Premio Bessio International Poetry Contest in Italy in January 2021. Most recently, she won the Galateo Prize for Poetry in Mother Tongue in Italy on 3rd of June 2021. Poems have been translated in over 26 languages. Would everyone else mute their microphones, please, except Pankuri, and then unmute as it's your time. Okay, thank you. Welcome, Pankuri.
Thank you so much. If you hear some dog sounds behind me, I apologize in advance. I hope it isn't very bad. I just have a few dogs and sometimes they just go crazy, but
Okay.
I hope it's okay.
All right.
I am going to read something very direct about the Ukrainian crisis. That is what I wish to begin with, because I have some very good friends in Ukraine, people that I have worked with in terms of my poetry. Somebody actually got a BA thesis done on one of my poetry books in Hindi, a professor of Hindi. So I really am feeling very connected to the crisis. So here is a poem I just wrote. These are 3 short poems. I just wrote them today, this evening. So why isn't the Ukrainian Air Force bombing the 40-mile-long armored convoy rolling inside Ukrainian territory? Or why isn't any foreign ally flying over that sky? Hit it. Asked the BBC correspondent, and out came tumbling some of this young country's history, still reflecting in the so-called peace negotiations, where a dictating neighbor is asking for demilitarization, even as it sends massive army to fight and suppress an almost recently liberated country. Just a few months ago, a literary festival had put forth the question of Crimean independence as one of the poetry topics in a poetry contest, and today its official recognition as Russian is one of the demands of a war-making aggressor. How long will it take for all the sanctions on Putin's Russia to knock its rapacious desires for a moment, just for a moment? Picture yourself in Kiev, slowly being surrounded. How can this world let a city as beautiful as Kiev pass into a siege? How can this world let war continue like it wasn't exactly shelling on us? I think I'll just leave it there and maybe come back with my other poems later.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. Chris, did you get your situation fixed? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you want to click on your video symbol at the bottom there? That should allow us to see you.
There we go.
There we go. Yay. Okay. Chris Fenoy is California Beat Poet Laureate 2017 through 2019 and U.S. National Beat Poet Laureate 2018 through 2019. He won the San Diego Book Award for 20 Poems Against Love and a Song for the Air. His book, A Strange Summer, includes I Got Beat in San Francisco and Last Call for Kerouac. He has been recognized for his writing, winning a San Diego Book Award for Best Book of Poetry 1 year and coming in second another year. Chris Fenoy's newest book of poems, called What is Beat, was published in 2019 by local Gems Press. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, how is everybody?
All right, good to see you.
I see a lot of familiar faces here, but a lot of new ones too. Let me see. I'll read the poem that I did for this year. I wrote it in 1992. It's called Clone. This is the year 2022. You're hereby instructed that I am clone number 204 of master body 335. Fully functional, standard intellect level was achieved through symbiotic representation and sentience through a miscalculation of amino acids. I am being held in passive restraint for donor organs. I overheard the biotechs talking in low whispers as they were excavating clone number 203 for master body implantation, full retrofit, all usable material removed. I lay in darkness with my fate for 18 years, prepared for a world that I had seen only through the pre-programmed memories of master body 335. I am being kept alive for donor organs. I stand before you now to plead for my life. I am clone number 204, and I am alive. Accessing. Memory engram 230. Digitized eyes. She had digitized eyes that were always flashing in alternating sequences of ones and zeros, making my heart flip. What a trip. Didn't have anything like her in the 60s. Copper-colored hair, chest bared to the hips, lips painted with platinum jewelry colors, black leotard stretched all the way to the ground, belly button pierced with transistors hanging down on a gold chain, a schematic tattoo spilled over her naked breast. I must confess it was love's glance just singing in my eyes. Took a chance, asked for her phone number, said she was listed in the personals under electrifying, left me sighing in her neon glow, don't you know? She melted my plastic exposed wires. I dripped WD-40 tears for 560 nanoseconds, just trying to reboot the vacuum tube of my crashing reality. She said she didn't need me. My battery lacked her juice, and that was news to me. Dissipated, I said, wait here, I'll be back, and ran to find a Radio Shack.
All right, thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah. Carlo Barcelli, National Beat Poetry Foundation Beat Poet Laureate for Maryland Emeritus. Considered one of the great poets of his generation. Welcome, Carlo.
You asked for it, but I'm going to begin with a piece of doggerel that I wrote yesterday. I live in Washington D.C. Technically, I'm a half mile from the D.C. line, and us natives call Washington Satan's anus because of the government. And this is called "They're Elated Here in Washington," and it's for Jack Hirschman. They're elated here in Washington. They've got their dirty war. Wall Street gets the money. The world gets the gore. Billions in weapons on the taxpayers' dime. And the murderers are ready to ship billions more. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline may be canceled. This will keep the EU weak, while the Germans freeze buying American gas, sold at 4 times its previous peak. And the Russians look the villain to every know-nothing bleeding heart glued to CNN, while in Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Venezuela, and Yemen, there's thousands more Uncle Slimy is killing again. Where's Whitey when the slaughter's in his name? Gulf of Tonkin, Iran-Contra, WMD, WMD, WMD. The corporate media's propaganda is working again, even though the lies are all the same. So the Minsk Accords are ashes, and the maiden coup's a voter's joke, and the Russians will give the CIA's Nazis 1,000 lashes for murdering children. Murderers Uncle Slimy conspired to provoke. And soon Washington will be shed of its Nazis and the Azov battalion they thought they could control. And like Operation Paperclip, they'll secrete them here to Washington and give them an official role. But for income, they'll become my neighbors and burn crosses on the mall. And when they want to bomb their homeland, Lockheed and Raytheon will heed the call. The common fascists, Slimy will let the Kremlin take and put bullets in their head, make Ivan do the dirty work to clean up another of Washington's so-called mistakes. But truth be told, Uncle Slimy loves him some Nazis, from Whitefish to Kiev, anything that will do his dirty work and leave anyone in the path of corporate greed dead. So they're elated here in Washington. Fuck the Minsk Accords and elected presidents like Yanukovych. Uncle Slimy has his coup and now a bloody war, and the Beltway bandits are richer for it. The dealership in Langley has sold out of Lamborghinis, while liberal Whitey has again taken the bait and proven ad nauseum to be the rich man's weenie. Nicaragua would invade Harlingen, Texas, we were told. And Saddam Hussein had WMD and had yellow cake. And there was no shelling in the Donbass, nor that Russia had the lies and thuggery from Washington, nor that Russia had all the lies and thuggery from Washington it could take. As Major General Smedley Butler said, war is a racket, and so Eisenhower warned. Still, white liberals prove again the P.T. Barnum adage, Every second, there's a sucker born.
Thank you, Carlo. Okay, Donnie Winter, you're up next. Donnie Winter is LGBTQ plus poet, educator, and activist from Saginaw, Michigan. He currently teaches creative writing at Delta College. His 2 poem collections, Carbon Footprint 2020 and Feats of Alchemy 2021, were released by Alien Buddha Press. His poems have appeared in numerous outlets, including Flypaper Mag, Sonder Midwest, and Awakening Voices. Welcome, Donnie Winter.
Hello, thank you for facilitating this. It's great to be featured alongside of such other talented people around the world. This is a short poem, and it's titled Lithosphere, which is a geological term about that describes like the Earth's top layer, essentially. Lithosphere. An eggshell somehow holds the weight of 7 billion people as they carry on, unconscious of cracks that spread like veins. Abyssal arteries have lost their magnetic heft, and half-coagulated rifts slow production, weary of repairing this hell. Latitude lines define topographic pressure points. Chernobyl, Bikini Atoll, Fukushima, 3 Mile. Plastic flotillas are soulless worships on an ocean swell, where sealed bottles carry notes that say, soon the earth will get well.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, Jim Ferguson is a poet and prose writer based in Glasgow, Scotland. He has published 2 novels, 5 collections of poetry, and several pamphlets. Recent poetry collections are Poor World, Speculative Books, and Weird Pleasure from Leamington Books. His new book-length poem, An Unfinished Dance, will be published by Rumor Books on March 6, 2022. Okay, welcome, Jim.
Hello, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's a kind of sad time to be alive. So I thought I'd just do, I write poetry both in Scots and English, but I thought this is a poem that was written in English. Strangely, the title comes from, it's called The Petrified Muck of Today, which comes from a poem by Vladimir Mayakovsky. It's unfortunately Russian. Anyway, I wrote this back at the time of apartheid and when Nelson Mandela was still in prison. All the gentility of unreal peace passes with one act of violence against that which appears to leave no choice. Acid searing cruelly, it goes on all of life, perfectly murdering beauty, murdering perfect you. Take a blade to yourself. Trying to fly is not what I would recommend because I am selfish and want you to live, not leap to where hereafter is probably a broken promise. The art of catching a bus is more easily perfected when I do not suspect you are tempted to die beneath its weight. Who is it saying veins full of junkie blood, they deserve to die? Even the unloving God I do not believe in should have better to offer. Eyes, orbs of wood, seas of ice, watcher and the watched, moon lumps, bulging sockets, torturer and the tortured, breaking bone, pretty peaches, spheres of stone, charcoal black, razor slits, metallic, searching, moody, mute, salt globes stinging on the toe of a boot. Keep your eyes on the politician whose breath is murdering people who want to love, be loved, not die like troubled urban tumors. See the military men's heads appear from the sleeves of the politician's jacket. The businessmen creep out the arse of his pants. These are decadent days, and God will avenge the decay by starving the poor, while the blessed drowning parties of champagne and malt and construction work starts on a cardboard township, and the brittle sharp blade slides through forearm flesh, and the buzzer sounds, guards go to the cell of your suicide. That's that. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, Michael Sorello is a retired firefighter paramedic who has been writing poetry for 40 years. He has had 2 full-length poetry books published, Euclid Creek from Deep Cleveland Press and 500 Cleveland Haiku from Writing Nights Press. Welcome, Michael.
Summit meeting. The leaders all look incredibly lifelike.
Oh, okay. Even though it came across as kind of broken up, it kind of fits it, you know. Oh, thank you. Okay, I guess that's the first round, except I'll do one simple little innocent piece. Trees from childhood. I hold on to innocence, the light before the darkness of damage lingers. I played house with rusty tin can lids as plates picked from garbage dumped in the woods. It was more the norm than exception in pre-Earth Day awareness. The standing people in the forest were my friends, with arms for swings and climbing, scent of pine needles and sticky residue gifted from the easiest trees to climb. Delicate golf ball-sized seeds were pretend eggs. Acorns were pickles or whatever the menu required that day. I would serve imaginary people. It was lonely, but they didn't complain. Okay, let's start back with Bengt. Bengt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just needed to unmute.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Round 2.
Yes.
I just like to say about Putin's words about the Ukrainian government is just full of Nazis, that the president is a Jew, and a lot of his family died during the Second World War, killed by the Nazis. Anyway, that's the other thing. I'm going to read a poem after that. Some mothers lactate in vain, crab fathers survive in pubs. There are children in dire need of some more parenting. Who will deep fry the fish? Who will see to it that chips are orderly or arranged before the march of the callous? Serenity walks barefoot through eye. No knickers needed today. The want of us all is just a foolish turn of event. Sails and rudders whisper, keels plow the earth. No one will ever beat a fake confession out of you. Dreamers are pioneers, wandering gray margins that never will amount to anything. Streams of bright possibilities bubble in these lost children water. Fountainheads call for a return, but you are but an eye. Streamed, dying, horrified by the final emptiness, love has nothing to do with armies marching in the night. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabor, you're up.
I'm up. Okay. I'm really envious of Chris. He just went out to the sun.
What?
He went to his garden.
Ah, there.
Okay.
Okay, don't leave.
Okay, this is one of the new books that been translated. They'll be good for seed Hungarian poetry by White Pine. And I have a few poems in this. So I'm going to read the Mirage. Leaning away from the lectern, she watches. Still, she can't see what is before her. Her mother buried the umbilical cord beneath the only tree in the courtyard to keep her daughter at bay. The wind takes a break from her weathered, sun-beaten skin into the empty, mile-wide space. Raw air enshrouds blameless fog clouds, her skyscraper solitude. His mayfly long life disperses in the mist of the cave deep silence. If she could, she'd scatter sand into the eyes of the thousand-tongued wind. She stays alive as long as she laughs amid the crowd. Pardon my English.
Oh, thank you very much. Your English is pretty good. It's excellent, in fact.
Could be better, right, Mr. Bengt?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, Ren Powell, you're up.
Mine too.
Yes. This has a lot of American references, so I apologize if those of you haven't been to Disneyland, don't catch them all. Inner Space Casita. I can see that nothing is solid no matter how it appears. From the automobile script of the adventure through inner space in Disneyland, 1973. Tomorrowland has new attractions, though everything is still a shiny plastic, with sticky finger touch in mouth and hips and handrails hot and then cold through every shadow. That day I stood beside the ticket taker and watched the people in the plastic cars. As some climbed out and others took their places, the cars would spin, but never stop or slow. Like luggage on a banded carousel, the people disappeared behind a wall, but reappeared inside a glass tube that tapered into shrinking into snowflakes. Because is not a reason. A glass-like tube, but it is, just like just am feels blue, woozy, scared. My sister sat alone inside a car. A gust of air conditioning took her. The ticket taker pointed to the tube and winked. No one really shrinks, you know. Then Mickey Mouse led me to the exit to see my sister's 5'5" all still there. It's okay, chicken. My sister pinched my nose. She'd seen the wrong way through the microscope. An enormous eye was looking back at her every cell, the spaces in between. It's not a long drive from Disneyland to home, but still we had to stop for gas. The attendant pulled the squeegee over the window. He smiled. My every atom jumped orbit. My sister's key ring had a rabbit's foot. My 4th grade science teacher knew mitosis. I know the human body is too fluid. I hold these truths to be self-evident.
Thank you. Okay, we have Pankari.
Yes. Hi. So I think I want to first do the 2 other poems for Ukraine. Bomb siren pierces the air, sharp and shrill. Hide somewhere. The air thick with smoke as Freedom Square just burst into smoke. Don't you feel the choke? Gasping for air. You're only watching on television, including the refugee crisis in making. And the other 4 lines. Peace, where children can happily go to school and return safe, where schools run all right and none of the conditions are so tight as to cause rupture. Peace where fields can ripen their grains and flowers can smile without stains. We long for that peace, dear peace, to arrive. I think I can do one more poem, Belinda, if I may.
If it's real short.
Right. It's not very short, but I think I'll just go ahead. It's kind of short. It's called The World in Transition. In so many ways, this world as we know it, spinning in the perfect circle of a globe on our fingertips, hanging obediently behind our smiling faces on our walls at home and at work, this dear old world of ours, so neatly or perhaps clumsily and artificially divided in political borders of nations and time zones chasing light, charted geographically in regions bifurcated by the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, sliced as if by the imaginary thinness of the equator, grouped in regions of the poor and of the rich, this motherly and beloved world of ours is actually so much in transition. Is so much in transition from old value systems to new ones, from its own old self and face to a new one. Just as our lives, our modes of thinking and analyzing our beings and personas changing and evolving in between our journeys between universities and cities and offices between the worlds of first, second, and third ranking. This world yet to be discovered, this world with always unknown corners and city squares full of surprises, this world made up of our families and strangers, of befriending desires and bohemian vacations is so caught up in transition, and not just where the Arctic ice is melting away dramatically, pouring into the Aegean and the Adriatic waters, crossed heavily by the boats, professionalizing in human trafficking, or where the Maasai peacefully share their land with the wildebeest, but just any and everywhere that it easily and so often simply forgets individuals reinventing themselves, coming and going between chapters being written, revised by so many, putting up fences, barricades, creating pockets of resistance, fanning discontent, taking the word smooth and peaceful away from the transition.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chris, please.
This one's called Front Porch American. My father lives on the nightly news. He digests the evening paper with the voraciousness of 3 newly hatched caterpillars. He's nothing but the spine, which he recycles by packing it around his gun collection. He respects only a Smith & Wesson altered above the fireplace. It keeps him warm when he sleeps. He sits on his middle America and watches the jobs go to Mexico, herded by Wall Street cowboys with their NAFTA smiles. I hear him mumbling about urban decline, and as endless flows of Latin Americans slip through the holes in the fence, furrow his lawn of manufactured grass in their slow passage north. He dreams Republican, and every day his world gets browner and more ethnic.
Oh, thank you. You're in the dark this time. But that was a good poem. Thank you.
Okay. If you ask anyone that has seen me perform, I come from anywhere.
Oh. Okay, Carlo, if you'd like to read a poem, it's your turn.
All right, look, I'm going to just read another piece of doggerel. I just want to say, with Zelensky, it's true. He won in a landslide on a peace platform, but the United States and the Ukraine Nazis will not let him sue for peace. They forced him to bow out of the accords and a follow-up formula. I'm just going to read. Oh, right. And my wife wanted me to mention that the other person this happens to all the time is Pierre Joris, and when he does lectures on Salon, because he's Jewish. Okay? There's an anti-Semitic dimension here that we should not ignore. This is a short little thing. It's doggerel. It's not very good, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's called The Mosquito. It's after my favorite Vietnamese communist poet, Phan Van Tri, and I've dedicated it to the abolitionist John Brown. I would have thought the lies of Tonkin would have sunk in, what with 5 million dead Cambodians, Lao, and Vietnamese. Or Iran-Contra would have become truth's mantra and brought the liars and murderers to their knees. And I thought Whitey might take stock after the invasion of Iraq and denounce Colin Powell's lumbering litany of lies. Fake Delunium rods, WMD, Iraqi jihads, and yellow cake. But in the war's bloody wake, 2 million died. White people's memories are short, whether killing for oil or killing for sport. So we have Libya, Yemen, Syria, Venezuela, Somalia, and more. Millions of deaths, and still Uncle Slimy does not rest until his newsrooms, think tanks, and cinemas burst with his passion for bloodlust and gore. The Minsk Accords, a peaceful solution, so Whitey's death merchants got bored. And when Slimy and his Ukraine Nazi crew, the Azov Battalion, launched a putsch, the 2014 coup, and murdered thousands of Muscovites, Romani, gays, and Jews. White liberal America knew just what to do. They voted with their eyes and watched all the lies that the corporate media could shove through. And when Zelensky wanted to sue for peace, Biden and his Nazis said no. If you don't do as we say, Jew, like Yanukovych, you'll just have to go. But the world's had enough. Today it's Ukraine's Nazis, and tomorrow Uncle Slimy, if you don't start to reflect on the massive evil you do, like Fan Van Tree wrote to the French at the Bien Phu, soon, given no choice, mosquito, we will come and we will kill you. I promise poetry after this. No more doggerel.
Thank you. Okay, Jim Ferguson.
Oh, hi. I always think I thought I'd just, and this is I thought I'd just do a wee song about porridge. Here in Scotland, we eat a lot of porridge for breakfast, and this is almost apolitical. It's called "If I Was Pablo Picasso" or the Porridge Song. If I was Pablo Picasso, I'd be smaller and balder and Spanish. But turns out I'm taller and Scottish, 'cause huge bowls of porridge I eat. I have porridge at dawn for my breakfast. I have porridge soufflé for my tea. And after a good porridge curry, I go for long runs on my knobbly old knees. If I was Pablo Picasso, I'd have porridge to the end of my days. I would not be lonely or sad, and I'd smile as I go on my way. But I am not Pablo Picasso. I'm just some old dude farting words. I have nothing to say that is royal, and I can't wait to be dancing in mud or burnt to a crisp in a box. Boom, boom. Thank you very much.
That was a great
I can't believe the sort of culture war that's going on in the United States. I suppose it's happening here too. It's a sort of global culture war, but it's unfortunate that we became a front in the global culture war there. It's really bizarre.
Thank you. Michael, you're up. Yes.
A matter of scale. As it was in the beginning, it is now and shall ever be. Panhandle for a few bucks, you're a bum. Panhandle for a few 100 million, you're a civic leader.
Yeah, it's a shame, but true. I'll just read a little short, innocent piece, relatively. Time shifts, filling auras dim, pivot, pull away. Cool air rushes in, turning cold, tearing the membrane in a couple's cocoon. Internal hum heightens, following orders from an unknown source. Or are we hearing gears in organic machines, making body waves, finishing a lesson in relationship, emptying and dawning, healing psychic wounds until we blend with spiced forest soil, hot with tiny life. Okay, it's Benk's turn. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back on again.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what I'm going to read this time. Let me just finish my chips.
Oh, what you eating?
I have a swig of beer. Okay, it's a short one. The young ones do not know. Dying, dying. The dogs, our neighbors, dying. A sweet smile can hide the fact. A kiss can erase it for a day, maybe, or two. I'm so in love with being alive. I can suppress the inevitable, but I am dying.
Okay, all right, thank you. Pancurry, would you like to read?
Yes, ma'am. I think I will do a poem called Flying Home with Mother, and this is actually based on my own experience. I used to live in States and I sort of suddenly lost my status. It's a long, long story. Bengt knows it somewhat, but it's based on the diaspora pain. So, Flying Home with Mother. I saw the photo caption said and remembered I just wrote it and wondered if it needed editing, some adding, some betterment of words to convey the real thing, perhaps another word for home. Can there ever be? For I wasn't going home. How could I? Home was far away, and one's native place doesn't automatically become home. Suddenly, after the long migration abroad and a near forced return, let's leave the long story and all theory and talk about home. Home the sweet, home the eternal, home the haven with books and spices neatly stacked to be easily found, for a home was to be ready for a walk in any time. You see, having lived on a road called Sweet Home for a long, long time, it's quite unimaginable that one won't be able to return home. Yeah, that's right, just home, my home, not an immigrant home, not home abroad, but home where I belonged, experimented with food and cooking, drink and dancing, sipping strangeness, tasting newness, cherishing the old, reinventing the ancient, where one could walk for miles in the woods. But the library was just walking distance and contained all one could look for. Of course, bookshops have their own charm, uncontested in the public sphere with endless choices, but excellent spots both for finding and losing oneself in books or in woods. That's what felt like home. Our built-up abode in a foreign country, one can never forget the aroma or the feeling, the thrill of perfect belonging as arrivals, alien people with strange customs that even differed. Belongingness was always contested and didn't have to be agreed upon, but perhaps guarded. How do I get back to that home? How can one's home suddenly get out of reach? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris, you're up again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you do pop up everywhere, don't you?
Nice short one. It's called The Gardener. He digs the weeds. The gardener who lives across the hall from me, his hair dyed an unnatural shade of yellow. Tattoo Tattoos escape down his arms out of his t-shirt sleeves. I hear his music escaping too from around the door where the air conditioner hums. He is a good gardener, plants cactus and marigolds, but he says his marijuana just won't grow. He says that it's been too hot and that he didn't water it enough. I think it was the squirrels. They seem much happier in the trees today.
Oh, that was delightful. Thank you. Carlo, you have a poem for us.
Yes, a real poem, no doggerel this time. I'm going to, Bill DeVault's publishing 22 of these current monologues I've been working on, and they're all very long, but I'm just going to read a little excerpt from several of them as we go along. And this is entitled, A Herr Holderlin is Dying, Lotta Zimmer's letter to Friedrich Schelling. Let me put my glasses on. This is a little excerpt from it. It runs about 500 lines. So, where we cannot go of our own accord, where only he is worthy, that Carpo let him pass. Even now, 2 hours before dawn, he struggles to cast off his mortal bonds, cries to his mates to follow, but not for all, for they too much embrace their savage discord, as such not be easily loosed. Compassionate people who yet do not know him, lest he die free of their knowing. This torment, that he be a bomb, denied by space and time to those. Yet such preachments and laying on of hands diminish the knowing, but to capture it in galloping words that defy the commonplace. And as though grasping a red-hot poker fresh from the fire, one leaps back and shrieks at the transformation. Covered in wounds and scars, he, beaming, trudges in from his wandering, copious of both heaven and earth. And one of these sheaves, this manna, strewn about his room, where his fugitive mind finds them most pecked with baffled paternosters. They must be held upon this earth as they are prayers bearing witness, kept from the ascending flames of a displaced catharsis, for such would magnify regret, both the world's and his. The gods would reel at the carnage, the loss, as they realize their light be of the poet, and his voice be of them, and so alien of other men. He walks where you and I cannot, pelted with eggs and stones, as any prophet condemned to death by the unknowing. The bonds of the earth are so weak against his gaze, he transforms it as a breath scatters motes of dust. As Zephyros, the seeds of spring, that by his observance Leibniz's monads be shattered into unbearable light. Glorious to find her being in him, this man to whom Gaia said, "Speak for me."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Donnie has left, so Jim, would you like to read?
Okay. Okay. Can everybody hear? Yeah. Okay, this is a wee thing called ice. Finding on the tip of your tongue an ice cube I knew rationally would melt. Even rationalism is emotive, I thought. Well, the police are going by. That lonely floating, it isn't true that is joy. It's pain and needing. What can I do but love nothing? For that nothing is the sense of the end, the absence of all things. So in loving nothing, I am loving all. Just a waltz, love, like dancing moves abundantly, should be ample, us together. I've been worse than sick with pleasure, with now your absence making me ache. It's time to fucking weep, I say, it's time. Naked, dreaming the world is warm and safe for soldiers to kill in. What pleasure there is in love is diminished by the whir of bullets. That's that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Michael, are you still there?
I am.
All right, you're up.
Okay, well, here in the United States, one can often see signs whose wording gives an additional meaning, probably not intended by the sign makers. This is a short piece about one of those signs. The sign outside the church said that during certain hours, your trespasses would not be forgiven.
Yeah. Okay. I'll read a thing here. My religion. I was raised by paradox and Southern tunnel vision, where God was a magic word who mostly brought beatings when we gave a damn. There was power in a book of weird translations that made no sense, that everyone swore by. The bigger and fancier the Bible, the holier you were esteemed. Fancy church ladies had flowers and lace, hugging unregulated misogyny and rules few followed but claimed they'd die for. I could never make sense of the Trinity or how God as Jesus could die for us, or how dying could take away sins we didn't know we had made. Seeking clarification itself was a sin, was the devil whispering. I remained a good girl until Philosophy 101, when my entire belief system crashed into history. Stolen mist with names changed. God was a plagiarist, mean and proud, warring for possessions under holy pretense, and a hypocrite breaking the rules enforced on us. Of course, he was us. We made him in our image. Yet I hold reverence for the mystery of life, infinity that boggles the mind, our webbed connections and roots of love. I call this God, I believe. Okay,